Hello everyone, welcome to my channel, and this is going to be a quick recap of last session 80. I'll show you a picture of my setup because I was with my players in real world environment, and that was great. And also I'll give you my big takeaway for my efficient GM prep, because I'm still trying to get it right to really get to that sweet spot of 1 hour per 4 hours of play. I know that maybe you also are busy GMs with a full life outside of TTRPGs, meaning job, kids, everything, house, whatever. And so I guess, I'm part of that demographic, and I do my videos to help out GMs like me that really don't have a choice but to be efficient, because if I'm not, then I don't play. So that's the pitch for my channel, that's the pitch for this video, and let's jump right in. So last session was all about going up the Malgomar, trying to find Elida at New Earthmore. Anybody who doesn't know this campaign, this is a campaign for the game Symbaroum. It's called The Throne of Thorns. If you're playing this campaign, stop watching right now. And so my players had escaped Yefferon Island and were pursued by two groups. The group of rangers led by Marvelo, and a group of fortune hunters led by Josefia Drezel. And so I had laid out all these things that you saw in my last video, and that you can see a bit on the screen right now. All of that was pretty much written down on my Remarkable. There was, not much in Eptabase. I'll come back to that, how I use Remarkable and Eptabase together. That will be my final takeaway of this video. So I had all these events, these possible events set up in segments. And what finally happened was that they saw the sail at the horizon for my first event, for the opener. Because the mage, Demeon, was high up in the sky with his levitate power. And so he saw the boat before they saw him. And a few rolls later, the boat, which was Josefia Drezel's group, just sailed by because they were heading for the arch bridge. And so, a lot of mosquitoes here in Devaka. I think I'll keep moving. So so they escaped that boat, but then for some reason, my players are really realistic in the way they play their reactions. I mean, it not that they want to be realistic, it's just that it happens that they have very natural responses to hooks and stuff, because I often put like real day minor events around them. They don't immediately suspect that a sail is obviously their pursuers. So they kept going to the arch bridge themselves, and once there, they didn't even check to see if the boat was there. They just went to the docks and sent some people to buy stuff for them in the town. Like they were wary of eventual spies of the rangers or people like that could be on their tail here. But they weren't expecting the boat with the crew of Josefia to be there. And of course, let's say the first segment of the session, possibly the whole first half of the session, was all about them doing that and slowly coming to know that Josefia Drezel was there, thanks to one player who's a bit more on the scout kind of guy. He's playing Melian, which is a changeling witch / scout, and so she transformed into a squirrel. She went on the docks, tried to see if some people were watching them. She found the boat. She was not in a squirrel, I'm sorry, she was in an otter, and so she was swimming in the water. I had an attack by a hammer eel. I like to have, not every time, but once in a while when she's transformed in a small animal, I have a predator nearby. And so she fought off the hammer eel. She just like squirmed out of its grasp and ran to safety on the shore. That could have been really gnarly, really fast. And she went back and told the group, and then they were, doing what players do, discussing, scheming, pondering their options for at least half an hour of circle talk, which I let them do that because that's part of the pleasure of the game. So they just talked and talked. And when I realized that, okay, it's not really going anywhere, well, at least it's going somewhere, but really slowly, I had Josefia Drezel arrive with her whole gang. And so she had Cleaver with her because I wanted to use Cleaver. And Cleaver was like a big brute, a big angry brute that wanted to, you know, just provoke the players. But the face-off stopped because the mage of the group did Ben Will on Cleaver, and Cleaver started acting weird. And in my game, Ben Will, you know, I nerfed it a bit because it's overpowered. So the first thing I changed is that you're controlling the person like a puppet. So it knows that they've been invaded. They're resisting. It's just that this resistance is reflected in the resolute roll. So they can have the shakes. They can have a weird look on their face. They can, you know, you don't have access to their thoughts or anything. You just have access to their body. You can force them to stammer some words. And of course, everybody quickly understood that something was awry, something was wrong. And so Josefia, her goal was to eye down the PCs to see who was the opposition, who she's dealing with, which she did. She turned around, she left, and the players were a bit dumbfounded because I had upped their group substantially. There was like a few ogres, a few plunderers, of course some fortune hunters. There was Josefia herself, and there were like 20. So actually the goblin bow caused the mayhem because he went up to Cleaver, because when Josefia left, she left Cleaver and 4 guys at the end of the dock to monitor the PC's movements. And Lodemé, the Templar, sat down in front of them. So it was like a standoff at the end of the dock. And Beau came with a beer which he had laced with dewdrops. He gave it to Cleaver. He failed his persuade because dumbstat. And I decided that Cleaver would have him have a sip before he drank any of it. And of course the goblin decided to throw the beer in Cleaver's face. Cleaver grabbed him by the collar, threw him away in the water. And things were going to basically pretty much calm down, but the mage of the group took the opportunity to do a bend will again and have Cleaver charge the guards that were getting off the Drakkar, because the docks are protected by 2 Drakkars with clan warriors on board. And when they saw that this scuffle was going on, they came down the boats, went towards Cleaver, and suddenly Cleaver was running towards them to hit them. Cleaver was backstabbed by Milian. He turned around and almost slew her. He just stabbed her in the stomach. She went down. She did a death save and then was saved by Beau. It was gnarly as hell. And I reminded my players during that fight, I said, you know, as long as nobody dies, legally, it's much less worse for you. If somebody dies, then you can expect a lot of trouble. So Cleaver was released by the possession before he got to fight with the guards and fled into the town. He was bleeding from the backstab, so he just died further off into the city. Cleaver was really tough because I always apply robust as damage reduction that is not armor. So any damage that bypasses armor does not bypass robust, which is very important in my sense. If you want your big creatures to be tough, you have to do that. And of course it makes the ogre of the group even tougher. But that's the whole point of that build. Like the character that wants to be this huge brute of an ogre is sort of diving into that archetype. So let him have it. You know, you can neutralize ogres by many other ways. The guards took over, of course, the situation. Everybody was forbidden to leave, and they had to present themselves before the chieftain, Embersind, the next day at noon. They were escorted by the guards and everything. I put Embersind's stronghold on top of one of the big pillars of the ancient bridge. So there's this keep built on top of this ancient pillar with all the scaffolding. And there's on the bottom around the pillar, of course, like the lower levels of the fortress with other buildings for guards and officials and everything. And of course, before they got there, they very intelligently found an Ambrian, a really racist Ambrian, that was one of the merchants at the docks that had seen the whole kerfuffle, and that was really happy to play witness for them and to incriminate the ogre. So they had that guy. It was really, like, you know, distasteful. they were, ah, shit, I can't believe we're dealing with this guy. But yeah, so racism won the day that day. But hey, that wasn't the point. The point was, for me, because it was a narrative portion, they didn't have to speak that much. I wanted to get over that pretty quick because I thought, okay, it's just a little battle involving Ambrians at the docks for Embersind. It's the ideal opportunity to get some money out of them. So I had this nice picture and this nice art of a very moody spleen, you know, full of spleen. And he didn't even talk to them. He just spoke to his advisors. And once Yosefia's gang was found guilty, they had to pay up, and they had to pay 55 thaler and all their weapons. So Yosefia is out of the race for a while, and that's a narrative reward. A victory against Yosefia without having to kill everybody. Because, you know, killing everyone and always having these big fights really gets old. In my sense, it's not realistic, because when you go around killing people all the time, at some point your psyche, you know, gets affected. When you're fighting abominations and undead and wilderness and all sorts of things like that, those are the good battles, because they're battles for survival. They don't involve any moral quandaries. It's just self-defense most of the time. And you're fighting evil. So, you know, that's the game I like to play. I've had a lot of morally gray, you know, torture the guy in the woods to get the info kind of scenes when we were playing our Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay campaign. So I was a bit sick of that. And in Symbaroum, I wanted, you know, more heroic play. I wanted the PCs to be the good guys for once. After that, they went up the river. Their captain couldn't go beyond the Whispering Rapids, so with their boat, because it's too big. So he dropped them off there, so I could present all I had created for setting-wise for that. They hired a fisherman's boat, and the young fisherman, very nice young kid, said, well, we can go just on the side. We can pull the boat with a rope, and we could go on the side of the rapids. You know, it's been done. Everybody does that. No problem. And of course, they ran into the young ravenous willow tree. And then we had a fight. So they got to that tree. There was a Nerfing and Odav pulling the rope on the shore, the others in the boat. And they got in front of that tree, and I had them roll vigilant, and they just noticed, because they failed their vigilant, they just noticed that there was some kind of a person stuck up in the tree, which was a goblin from the nearby quarry where they're creating the canal. And so Nerfing climbed in the tree, and that's so cool. When the players give you an opportunity like that to create some suspense, to really create these wonderful movie moments, it's great. It's really great. So I was there, okay, he didn't notice that it's a living tree and he's climbing in the tree. That's awesome. So when he was halfway up, the tree attacked, and I can't describe everything, but it was a really cinematic, really fun battle where he tumbled down, got grappled, Odav came to help, got grappled herself, they pulled out, the others were shooting at the tree, throwing fire at it. They finally got out, killed half of the tree, because it's twin-headed creature. Then the tree made a wall of roots that was stopping them. The tree had all the stuff of Mirezin. So Mirezin went back in. Le Deme broke the roots. So you see, there was like an ebb and flow, and it was really, really fun battle. I really love that creature, the Ravenous Tree. I highly recommend using it. I almost decided to use the stronger version, like the old one. But I looked at the stats and oh my god, I think it's mighty, its level of difficulty. And so I used the young one, and it was, for a random encounter like that, it was perfect. So that's how we finished that session in person. It was really fun to be all around together, have only paper and dice. It was really great. Love it. And so what are my takeaways? Well, first of all, just a little takeaway about the ogre cleaver. Why I put him in? Well, first of all, my characters are all at 260 XP, including starting XP. So they're not super powerful, but they're becoming pretty powerful now. So I always bump up the opposition. And in the case of Yosefia, just Yosefia with some fortune hunters, that would have been lame. So that's why I added Cleaver. And Cleaver, even though he got whacked pretty quick, he got whacked because the characters were intelligent. Because if there had been like a huge fight with all the 20 people at the first encounter on the docks, things could have gone much, much worse. So the fact that they waited, that they attacked him when he was just with a few dudes with him. But anyhow, when you have strong characters like that, or big brutes in Symbaroum, a common critique is that they don't last long, they're weak. And it's true. It's true that I think the designers of the game realized that. And that's why the more you go into the Throne of Thorns campaign, and even in the Monster Codex, they started applying the ability Sturdy. You can use Feat of Strength also, that gives more XP, more toughness. You can also, for certain characters, you can use Steadfast and you can use Mystical Resistance to avoid having your big bad be mind controlled right away or something like that. Like Steadfast is almost a no-brainer for many enemies. If you imagine that your character is determined and like a very powerful mind, then of course give him Steadfast, just do it. And lastly, regarding those big tough characters, is that they know mystics exist, so have them be wise about that. If you know that your enemies have a mystic, you need to be careful. If you don't have a mystic on your side, you have to give an order to your archers or your scouts to find that mystic and get rid of him, while you, the big guy, take care of the other big guys. That can be a strategy. Or you can just try to attack by surprise and kill the mystic outright in the first round, and then turn around to the rest of the group. Of course, I'm not saying kill the PCs, but if you want to up the ante, if you want to create stress in those encounters, you need to hit hard. You need to be mean, because if you're not, then it becomes a cakewalk. And an evil guy would do that. So the way that you can mitigate to make sure you're not doing a TPK every time is that you just make sure that they have some herbal cures, or they have, something to heal up. And what happens when you do that, what will happen is that you will severely, you will kill a mystic, and then the combat becomes automatically much more complex, because the players need to fight off that big guy, maybe even push him away from the mystic that's been downed. One person needs to go to the mystic and heal him. So that means losing some action economy. That makes for a very rough start at the beginning of the combat, which is great, because usually your players have a lot of resources, and that, as the combat moves along, the action economy is going to become in their favor pretty quickly. So those first rounds are really the ones where you strike fear into the players. They'll have a scare, and that's good, because you're going to get their attention, and they're going to really have to concentrate to get out alive. So that's the first takeaway. The second takeaway was about the prep itself, and I think I'm finding my sweet spot. You know, at first I was using like actual paper because I really like it. When you sit down to do your prep, you know, with tea or coffee on a Saturday morning or something, it's much more relaxing to not be in front of a computer. You know, you have your book spread out, you've got your paper, you're jotting things down. When you write by hand, things stick in your mind much more. So actually, when you run the game, you pretty much remember everything you wrote, which is much more efficient than even the most efficient find function in the computer. So I want to go back to paper. The problem with paper that I lived through as the campaign advanced is that the quantity of information you're managing is a lot. And flipping through pages to find stuff can be a bit daunting sometimes. And you want that Command F function. So you need both. And what I did is that I switched to Remarkable for my paper on the paper side. It's really paper that's intelligent in the sense that you can, you know, I can choose a bit of writing that I did. I can select it, copy it, paste it elsewhere. I can move pages around between my notebooks. Yeah, it's like the convenience of computers with the very featureless, tactile experience of paper. The thing I had to determine is, where does Heptabase stop and where does Remarkable start? And I don't want to double things too much. And I also have stuff on the VTT Foundry. So what I do is basically all that my Remarkable things, those are the pages that I want to print out for the game. So that is the physical prep. For each scene, I have like bullet points of the different NPCs, print those out, put them on the board. As you can see in the picture there, I have my stock character names that go there as well. And I have my session notes, which are my different segments of all my prep that you saw. That I won't print out. I'll have in front of me on my Remarkable, and I can write on it in the Remarkable as the session progresses. And for Heptabase, I'm keeping it really like my wiki. So it's, for some people it's Obsidian, some people use some other things like World Vault or whatever. So if I have like something really complex that my player is asking about, I can do a search there. And if I don't find it, then of course I have my PDFs. So that's it. That's pretty much how I'm prepping right now. And before we go, I'd like to once again thank you guys to be there. Thank you, gals or gal. I don't know. I think you're six ladies. So thank you, ladies, to be there as well. And please, if you want to support the channel, do the like, subscribe, and all of that. And go on Drive-Thru RPG. Check out Playing with Goblins. Regarding that, I'm rewriting it for D&D because I just want to see if I can make any sales on that side. Of course, if I could make some sales, then maybe I'll write more of these. So if you want to help me out with that one, anybody that knows the D&D rules could read it, proofread it, maybe even do a little combat playtest with me if you want. So if that's something that could interest you, you can just put it in the comments. Tell me that you're interested, and we'll set up something.